So over the past few years, I've read various different books when it comes to the topic of money. Some of the books were helpful, some of them weren't, but in today's video, I'm going to go through my top 10 lessons, my top 10 books that actually enabled me to quit my full-time job, travel around the world to various different beautiful locations while still being able to earn a source of income from all of my different income sources, even when I'm sitting by the pool or sitting by the beach. These are the 10 lessons that if you apply to your life, you're also going to be able to see a massive change when it comes to your financial future. All right, so starting off with lesson number 1, which I learned in this book over here titled Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The main lesson that I learned from this book is the importance of having a burning desire when it comes to you being able to successfully make money. Now, to give you a practical example of what I'm talking about, the way that I was able to initially leave my full-time job many years ago was because I started an eBay business. And the reason why I decided to start an eBay business in particular is because I had a burning desire for me to sell products on eBay for whatever reason. Maybe it was due to the fact that I used to purchase things from eBay when I was in school and I just understood how the platform worked. But whatever the reason is, I had a burning desire when it came to me listing products on eBay and selling them for a profit, which I followed. And because of that, I was able to generate over $1 million. And the lesson that I learned from this book is something that I've applied to my life generally speaking. Whenever I get to a point in life where I'm not sure of exactly what to do, what step to take, I just think within myself as to what is my desire, what exactly do I want to do? And then I follow that through, and I would say 90% of the time, because I'm following what's within my heart, that's when I see the biggest results. But moving on to the second book and the second lesson that I learned, which is from this one over here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. The main takeaway that I got from this book when I read it many years ago, and this is probably one of the first initial books that I read, is the importance of becoming a business owner. And not only did I learn the importance of becoming a business owner, but I also learned the difference between an asset and a liability. This is something that we're not really taught in school, but once I got through the entirety of this book, I had a clear understanding of what made sense when it came to the type of business that I needed to build. And I also learned the importance of being able to generate cash flow from that business, which is something that you're not really able to do when you're an employee. But this now brings me on to one of the third books that I want to talk about and the lesson that I learned from that book, which is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Now, most people don't attribute this book to making money or becoming rich, but I would say that this is probably the most important book that I read because it was the first book that I read when it came to me wanting to self-improve and change my financial situation. The reason why I read this book is because I heard someone talking about it in an interview and they said it changed their life and they were able to learn a concept called the law of attraction. At that point, I didn't understand what it was. I've never heard of it before. So I bought the book, I read it from start to finish, and I also watched the movie on Netflix. It may not be there now, but you might be able to find it on YouTube. But I watched that movie, I read the book, and I applied the principles to my life straight away. And over time, I started seeing things fall into place. And for those of you that don't know exactly what the law of attraction is, it's a simple philosophy that says whatever we hold in our mind in terms of thoughts and whatever we believe that we deserve, that is what we're going to see manifest in our life before we know it. So I would say that the main lesson that I learned from this book is that most people believe that they don't have control over the direction of their life. But if you read this book and you apply the principles within it and you apply the techniques, you're going to realize that you got more control than you know. But the main issue with people that read The Secret and come across the law of attraction is that they believe that they're going to be able to sit on the sofa, do nothing at all, think positive thoughts when it comes to the money that they're trying to make, and the money's just going to fall into their life, when that isn't how it works. You're going to have to put action into it. And this is a concept that I learned from this book over here called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. So I read this book from start to finish. I also listened to the audiobook as well. And I would say that this book taught me the importance of taking massive action. And not only should you be taking massive action, but you should also set massive goals as well. The main lesson that I learned from this book is that most people set really, really small goals and they either accomplish it or they get a little bit close to the goal. But because the goal was so small, it doesn't really have any fundamental impact on their life. However, if you set a big, outrageous, massive goal, even if you don't reach it, you're still going to be able to change your life in a big way. But one bit of advice that I do want to give to any beginner out there is to make sure that when you first get started, you set small goals and you try and accomplish it so that you can prove the concept for whatever you're trying to do. But once you've got an understanding of exactly how the business model works for whatever you're trying to do, that's the point where you can now start to increase the goals that you're setting for yourself. And another thing that I learned from this book is the importance of setting objectives. In school, I would say that we're mainly taught about goal setting, but we're not really taught about objective setting. And objectives are the things that's going to move us closer and closer to our goals. The objectives that we set ourselves are essentially the action steps that we need to take. And if you're not setting big, smart goals and big, smart objectives, then of course, you're not going to see any change in your money situation. But moving on to the next book, which is actually a big game changer for me, which is this one over here, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Now, the reason why this book was actually pivotal was because it broke down the fundamentals of what it takes to be rich in a very simplistic way. Most people tend to overcomplicate it, and that's what I did myself. I made it seem like a big, hard, difficult thing, which I'm not saying that it isn't. Of course, there's some difficulties that's going to come when you're trying to make a lot of money. But if you're a complete beginner that has nothing, or maybe you've only got around $1,000, $10,000, something small like that, and you're trying to make $100,000, $200,000, this book will definitely give you clarity and it will definitely put you on the right path. Because even if we just take a look at some of the chapters, for example, the first chapter is The Right to Be Rich. In this chapter, I learned that every single person on this planet, whether you're born in Africa, Asia, Europe, America, wherever you're born, you've got the right to be rich if you want to. There's so many people that were born in the poorest places, in the poorest situations, in the poorest countries, but they were still able to make billions of dollars. And that's because they knew that they had the right to be rich, so they followed the necessary steps. Another chapter in this book is gratitude. If you've got gratitude for the smallest things in your life, then you're going to be able to attract larger things. There's so many different chapters throughout this book that break down the basics when it comes to making money and becoming rich, and it all comes down to a science. And if you're able to understand the formula, then before you know it, your entire life is going to change. So on to the sixth book, which is this one over here, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Now, this is another book that I read in the early days when I was first building up my online business, and the key takeaway that I got from this book is the importance of waking up first thing in the morning and getting the biggest task out of the way, the biggest thing that's going to move the needle in your online business out of the way as soon as you can. The main things that I learned from this book is the importance of having good time management, organization, and not procrastinating the important things. So if you're someone that maybe struggles with good time management, or maybe you're someone that's working a 9-to-5 job and you're trying to do a side hustle at the same time, this book will definitely give you clarity when it comes to exactly how to approach things, exactly how to organize things, and exactly how to put the most important things first. But swiftly moving on to the next book that I want to talk about, and the main lesson that I learned from that book, which is this one over here titled The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Now, the main lesson that I learned is actually the title, which is The Power of the Subconscious Mind. From this book, I realized that when it comes to attracting things, when it comes to becoming the person that you want to become, it all starts off in the mind. When you think about it, every single thing on our planet, every single thing that we see with our eyes, for example, the buildings, airplanes, whether it's products, whether it's this book itself, every single thing started off in someone's mind. And once you're able to understand exactly how the subconscious mind works on a fundamental level, then before you know it, you're going to be able to use your mind as a tool when it comes to creating your dream reality. But moving on to the next book that I'm going to talk about, which is this book over here titled The Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. As you can see, this book isn't big at all, probably a few pages, but I would say that any person out there that's completely new to reading, if you read this book, you're going to be able to learn key lessons that you're going to be able to apply to your life ASAP, and you're going to be able to see things falling into place. And the reason why I say that is because this book is basically a practical guide when it comes to understanding how you can use your subconscious mind and your imagination. Now, for those of you that's never heard of Neville Goddard before, he was one of the biggest law of attraction teachers in his time, and to be honest, he's still one of the biggest ones. And his teachings have changed various different people's lives, including mine. Now, the main technique that he talks about in this book is the sleep technique, where as you're drifting asleep, if you're able to use your imagination to think about your dream life in detail, as specific as you can, and you make sure to do it as you're falling asleep, you're going to be able to tap tap into the theta waves, because as we're falling asleep, I believe our brain waves change from beta to theta. And during that time, that's where your subconscious mind is going to be easier when it comes to reprogramming it. But I don't want to overcomplicate it. If you wanted me to make a more detailed, deeper video on this topic, then put in the comments down below, do the Neville Goddard video, and I'll get onto it ASAP. But moving on to book number 9, which is this one over here, Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. Now, the title of this book says it all. If you're not obsessed with whatever you're trying to go after, then you're going to be average, quite simple. Now, when I read this book beforehand, I always felt like it was bad for me to be obsessed with whatever I was doing, whether it was my e-commerce business, my affiliate marketing business, whatever business I was trying to build up. I always felt like I shouldn't be obsessed with it. But once I read this book, I realized that if you're not obsessed, then you're going to get subpar results. And the honest truth is, majority of the people that are around us, whether it's our teachers, whether it's our friends, our family, do live an average life. And those are the people that would say that you shouldn't work too hard on your business, you shouldn't be spending too much time on it. But if you make the mistake of listening to people that are living a life that you don't want to live yourself, that's when you're going to fall into the trap of living an average life. But this now brings me on to the final book and the final lesson that I'm going to talk about in this video, which is this book over here, The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. Now, initially when I got this book, I didn't really want to read all of it because I didn't know exactly what it was about, but I read it from start to finish with no skips. And the reason why I did that is because it broke down a lot of the things that I needed to know as a complete beginner that was looking to make money. The main lesson that I learned from this book is that there's different levels when it comes to you trying to make money in the quickest way possible. And I'm not necessarily referring to get rich quick schemes. I'm talking about different business models out there that will help you get to whatever financial goals you're trying to get to quicker than others. I learned that when it comes to starting an online business, this is probably one of the best ways when it comes to getting to your first 100K, your first 50K, whatever you're trying to do. An online business will definitely get you there because you've got the power of scale. And another thing that I learned from this book is the importance of delegating tasks out to employees, freelancers, whatever it is. And just to give you a quick summary of exactly what MJ DeMarco talks about in this book, he breaks down 3 different lanes that we can take in life, whether the sidewalk, the slow lane, or the fast lane. Now, the sidewalk is primarily people that want to get a normal 9-to-5 job and they're not really looking to get anywhere really quick. The slow lane is essentially investing into things that's going to build up and compound over time. Things like investment accounts, savings accounts, pensions, 401ks if you're based in America. There's so many different ways to build wealth, and some are not necessarily bad, but some of them are just a lot slower than others. And this now brings me to the fast lane, which again relates to people that are looking to make an abundance of money in the fastest way possible. And I believe that this is through entrepreneurship and building businesses, especially online businesses, because you're going to be able to target the entire world. And of course, this is exactly what this channel is about. I teach various different tips and tricks when it comes to making money online for beginners. But if you wanted to watch a completely free webinar where I break down one of the best online business models out there for a beginner that's looking to get to their first $5,000 per month, $6,000 per month, depending on how much effort you put into it. So make sure that you click the first link that's in the description down below to check that free webinar out. And if you also wanted to watch another YouTube video where I break down exactly what you need to know as a beginner that's looking to make money online over the next year, some key lessons that's going to get you to the point of making your first $100 per day. Very simple, very straightforward video. Then make sure you click the link over there. Check that out straight after this one because it's already helped out so many people and I'm sure that it's going to help you out too. All right, guys, see you in the next video. Make sure you stay safe out there. Peace.